everyone, welcome to my channel. This is actually my second video for the day. The first one I did was a sort of announcement about some news I had, as well as a thank you to you all. I reached 100 subscribers this weekend, so that was really exciting. And I also launched an Etsy shop where I'm selling instant digital download files of my artwork so that you can make your own prints. So I have a link in the description to my Etsy shop. I hope you'll check it out. But on to this video, I'm doing a 10-minute watercolor painting. If you haven't seen any of my other videos in this series, the whole goal is just to get you painting or doing some type of art practice as much as possible. It can be feel a lot more manageable to do something in even 10 to 20 minutes rather than feeling like you have this giant project. So you start small, do something on a regular basis, either every day or every week, and then you can build up to those longer projects. So let's go ahead and jump right in. It is in real time, so if you did want to follow along and try it out with me, you could absolutely do that. So here we go. As you probably saw in the title of this video, I'm going to be painting cat eyes. Now, normally I would start out with a very light pencil sketch for a longer painting, but for these 10-minute videos, I'm just jumping right in. So the proportions may be a little off, but the more you do something, the better you'll get at it. So even though at one point in this video, I realized the second eye wound up being a little higher than the other, I was able to sort of fudge it and fix it a bit, and I was pretty happy with how it turned out. So I know it sounds so silly, not silly, but everyone's heard this before probably 100 billion times. The whole practice makes perfect, and it is so true. The more you do something, the better you get at it. So not to sound like a broken record, but I just want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, keep working at it. You will see improvement. If you're interested in seeing the reference image that I'm working from, it's from unsplash.com. It's linked in the description. Unsplash has a lot of really wonderful copyright-free photographs, so go there and support those photographers and artists that have posted their lovely work for people to use for free. So I am starting with black, and again, on these faster paintings, I'm breaking some of the rules. Ideally, you would want to start out with your lighter colors first and then go over with the black, but I needed some sort of guide and outline since I didn't have a pencil sketch. So I did go ahead and use the black paint, and I'm using my size 4 round tip brush. It's my favorite, although it's starting to fray a little bit at the ends. Colorado is so dry, I just think that might be part of it. But it still does the job, and I have some other smaller, newer round tip brushes that will do the thing. But since I was working quickly with this, I wasn't worrying too much about super fine detail. So I use the black outline. I'm using some very light, little amount with lots of watered down yellow ochre for that kind of main eye color. Going in with some browns. There's also, if you look at the reference image, the photo of the cat that I'm working from has some really beautiful minty green hues near the center of the eye. So hence I'm going in with some hooker's green, and haha, yes, I know that. I can't help but chuckle at the name of that. It's named after the person, not the other thing you're thinking of. But so that's actually one of my favorite greens to use. Mixed with some blue, it creates a fabulous teal. But for now, just very, very lightly going over to give that minty green type of hue around the pupil of the eye. Going in with some raw sienna. Give a little bit of darker. There's a lot of variation in the eye, and of course I didn't have time to put all those details in because this was only 10 minutes, so trying to work fairly quickly. But I was also trying to be careful to make sure at least some of the highlights, you'll see there's a highlight in the pupil and a highlight in some of the color of the eye. Again, I wasn't concerned about having them exact the way they are in the photo, but enough that you would get the sense of a reflective sheen on the surface of the eye. And then going in with some darker outlines to really flesh out that eye and make it pop. There's that sort of dark kind of skin and eyelid that the cat has. And lightly going in with some hints of kind of thinner brush strokes. I started above that eye, and I'll do a little bit more of that to hint at the cat's fur. Adding a little more detail in there with, pretty sure that's burnt umber, that dark brown. I'll have to double check, but yes, lots of browns and yellows and that little hint of green in here, as well as, so there you see, I kept in some of those kind of brush stroke textures to make it look like fur. Take advantage of the paintbrush's natural hair-like texture. You have bristles, take advantage of them. And part of how you can do that is if you not having a ton of water on the brush, so a little less water and a nice thin fine layer of paint in there so that it will leave behind the brush strokes. Otherwise, if your brush is waterlogged, it's just gonna have the more flowy washes of color rather than actual bristle strokes. So here you can tell I started out and realized, so the bottom of that eye doesn't quite line up with the bottom of the other eye, so I had to go in with some water and kind of remove it, and then I used my towel to blot it so it would dry, so that when I went back over, the black wouldn't start flowing into the wet part. So take advantage I like to use old kitchen towels instead of paper towels. Try to reduce the amount of waste, and just go in with a towel or a paper towel, blot it to kind of quickly dry if you're working fast. Creating the outline for the other eye, and again trying to maintain some of those little dots and white highlights that are in the eye. In the photo, this eye looked a little more, had a little bit of a darker outline. I think that's partly where the direction of the light is coming from. And then going in again with that yellow ochre, very lightly, kind of just blotting it in. And this paint is very watered down, very light. So unlike with the fur, you can add quite a bit of water to this and smooth it all in there. And it's a lot of fun to work. You actually get some of the sort of kind of texture color of the eye when you're working wet into wet. So wet paint atop over wet paint really flows into each other. It makes things blend nicely. I did get maybe a little too much green in there, a little more exaggerated than I would have liked. So I did try to go back, and you just rinse your brush really well, blot it on your towel, and then go in with just a barely damp brush and kind of lift some of that wet color out of there. I went back to the other eye a couple times because as I was working, I realized, let's add some more details. And I am realizing, looking at this as I'm kind of doing this narration, that the kind of dark patches of fur above both eyes, they're not quite symmetrical. So again, this is the nature of working quickly, also not working from a sketch. If you want something to be much more accurate, I highly recommend sketching it out first. But for a 10-minute painting where you're just trying to get some stuff down on paper, it's okay to have those types of errors. They will happen. I use some Payne's Gray for those kind of shadowy areas under the eye. Payne's Gray is one of my favorites. It's this super deep, rich, almost navy gray, blue, black. I like it sometimes even better than pure black for really dark areas and shadows. There's my raw umber. Pretty sure. Sometimes I get them mixed up in my head, so I apologize. I think the raw sienna is the more yellowy brown, and the raw umber is this orangey brown, and burnt umber is the dark brown. Maybe this is burnt sienna. I think this is burnt sienna. Aha! I remember now. Okay, burnt sienna is the orangey color, I'm pretty sure. So Forgive me for the lapse of memory, but and if you don't have those exact colors, because sometimes, so these are Winsor Newton watercolors from a metal tube that I use. I just have put into a palette, so it's okay if you don't have those exact colors, just kind of more orangey browns versus kind of browns that have a little more bluish to them, and yellowy browns or yellow hues. Just that's kind of the thing to focus on. You don't necessarily have to know the exact name of the paint, but you can see how orange that color is. Little hints of fur here and there. I didn't put a ton of fur details because I didn't quite have time in the fur between the two eyes, but I glanced up at my clock and realized that my time was just about out. So I went ahead and added a signature on there, because that takes, when you're not just writing with a pen and you're trying to write with your fine tip brush, it takes a little longer. It takes, several seconds. So I went ahead and just added that and was right under the 10-minute mark. And there is the final product. I hope you enjoyed that video and found it useful. If you did and really liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, and I hope you also consider subscribing. I would really appreciate that. But in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful day. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. God bless, and I'll see you soon.